Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 verse 31 to 40 meaning. Swadharmamapi chavikshya na vikampitum dharmyadhiyuddhat shreyonyat kshatriyasya na vidyate. Considering and doing your duty as a warrior, you should not waver from it. Indeed, for a warrior, there is no better engagement than fighting for upholding of righteousness. Swadharma is one's duty as an individual in accordance with the Vedas. There are two kinds of swadharmas or prescribed duties for the individual: paradharma or spiritual duties and aparadharma or material duties. Considering oneself to be the soul, the prescribed duty is to love and serve God with devotion. This is called paradharma. Aparadharma are the activities that we do for our daily life. This distinction between spiritual duties and material duties needs to be kept in mind while understanding the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedic philosophy. By occupation, Arjuna is a warrior, and so his occupational duty as a warrior is to fight for the protection of righteousness. Shri Krishna is calling his Swadharma or prescribed duty at the body level. Shlokam 32. Yadrichya chopapannam swargadvaramapavritam sukhinah kshatriyav partha labhante yuddhamidrisham. O Partha, Arjuna, warriors are happy to whom such opportunities to defend righteousness comes to them, opening for them the stairway to the celestial abodes. Doing one's occupational duties may not be a spiritual act, and it may not result in God realization. It is merely a virtuous deed with positive material rewards. Shri Krishna brings his instructions a step lower and says that even if Arjuna is not interested in spiritual teachings and wishes to remain at the bodily level, then also his social duty as a warrior to defend righteousness is important. So Bhagavad Gita is a call to action and not to inaction. So many people, when they are exposed to lectures on spirituality, they often ask this question: are you asking me to give up my work? But verse after verse, Shri Krishna is giving Arjuna the reverse instruction. While Arjuna wishes to abandon his duty, Shri Krishna repeatedly coaxes him to discharge it. The changes that Shri Krishna wishes to see in Arjuna is an internal one, in his consciousness, and not an external renunciation of works. He now explains to Arjuna the consequences of giving up his duty. Shlokam 33. Athat chetvamimam dharmyam Sangramam na karishyasi tataswadharmam kirtim cha hitva papamavapsyasi. If, however, you refuse to fight this righteous war, abandoning your social duty and reputation, you will certainly incur sin. Shri Krishna explains that if a warrior chooses to become non-violent on the battlefield, it will be dereliction of duty, it will be avoiding duty, and hence classified as a sinful act. Hence Shri Krishna states that if Arjuna abandons his duty, considering it to be painful and troublesome, he will be committing a sin. Shlokam 34. Akirtim chapi bhutani kathayishyanti te vyayam sambhavitasya cha kirtihi maranadatirichyate. People will speak of you as a coward and a deserter. For a respectable person, ill fame is worse than death. Many societies in the world believe and observe the norm that a warrior who runs away from the battlefield out of cowardice is removed from the society. That could be the extent of dishonor inflicted upon Arjuna if he avoids the duty. Therefore, Shri Krishna is encouraging him to do his duty. Shlokam 35. Bhayadranaduparatam mamsyante tvamaharathaha yesham cha tvam bahumatah bhutva yasyasi laghavam. The great generals, the warriors who hold you in high esteem as a warrior, will think that you have run away from the battlefield out of fear and thus will lose their respect for you. We all know that Arjuna is a famous mighty warrior and a worthy opponent for even the most bravest of the Kaurava warriors like Bhishma, Dronacharya, Karna, etc. He had also attained fame by fighting with many celestial gods. He had also fought and surprised Lord Shiva, who had come in the disguise of a hunter. Pleased with his valor and skill, Lord Shiva had rewarded him with a celestial weapon called Pashupatastra. His teacher at archery, Dronacharya, he had also bestowed his blessings upon him in the form of a special weapon. Therefore, just before the battle, if Arjuna were to retire from the battlefield, everybody will think he's a coward. Shlokam 36. Avachya vadamsha bahun vadishyanti tavahitaah nindantastva samarthyam tato dukkhattaram nukim. Your enemies will defame you and humiliate you with unkind words, putting down your might and valor. What could be more painful than that? If Arjuna chooses to run away from the battle, not only his fame will come down, but his respect also will go away. Shri Krishna continues to say that people around his enemies like Duryodhana will start talking harsh words and will say so many unbecoming things about him. Like, look at that impotent Arjuna flying away from the battle, like a dog with its tail between its legs. Shri Krishna reminds Arjuna that such words will be very painful to you. Shlokam 37. Hato va prapsyasi swargam jetva va bhokshyase mahim tasmadutishta kaunteya yuddhaya krita nishchayah. Arjuna, if you fight, you will either be slain, killed on the battlefield, and go to the celestial abodes, or you will gain victory and enjoy the kingdom on earth. Therefore, arise with determination, O son of Kunti, and be prepared to fight. So, continuing from the previous verses, Shri Krishna is still giving instructions at the level of occupational duties. He explains to Arjuna there are two possibilities out of the war after he performs the duty. If Arjuna becomes victorious, a kingdom on earth awaits him. And if he is forced to lay down his life in the discharge of his duty, he will go to the celestial abodes. Shlokam 38. Sukha dukhe same kritva labha labhau jaya jayau tato yuddhaya yujyasva Naivam papamavapsyasi. Shri Krishna continues to explain Arjuna that he should fight for the sake of duty, treating both happiness and distress the same way, loss and gain the same way, victory and defeat the same way. Fulfilling the responsibility in this way, he says, you will never incur sin. So Shri Krishna advises Arjuna to become detached from the outcomes of the war and simply focus on the duty. When he fights with the attitude of equanimity, treating victory and defeat, pleasure and pain as the same, then despite killing his enemies, he will never incur sin. This beautiful subject is in fact repeated later in Bhagavad Gita in verse 5:10. Just as a lotus leaf is untouched by water, those who dedicate all their actions to God, completely surrendered to Him, abandoning all attachment, remains untouched by sin. Having now declared a profound conclusion about working and doing duties without attachment, Shri Krishna now says that he will explain the science of work in detail to reveal the logic behind what he has explained. Shlokam 39. Yesha te bhihita sankhye buddhir yoge tvimam shrunu buddhya yukto yaya partha karma bandham prahasyasi. So long I have explained to you Sankhya Yoga or analytical knowledge regarding the nature of the soul. Now listen to me, O Partha, as I reveal Buddhi Yoga or the Yoga of intellect. When you work with such understanding, you will be freed from the bondage of karma. The word Sankhya comes from the roots Sang, which means complete, and Khya, meaning to know. So, Sankhya means the complete analytical knowledge of something. So, here Sri Krishna has explained to Arjuna Sankhya in another form, which is analytical knowledge of the immortal soul. He now says that he is going to reveal the science of working without desire for awards. This requires detachment from the fruits of actions. How does this happen? Such detachment comes by practicing discrimination with the intellect. Therefore, Sri Krishna has interestingly called it as Buddhi Yoga or Yoga of the intellect. In subsequent verses 2.4 and 2.44, he goes on to explain how the intellect plays an important role in bringing the mind to a state of detachment. Shlokam 40. Nehabhikramanaşosti pratyavayo na vidyate swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Working in a state of consciousness, there is no loss or adverse result, and even a little effort saves one from great danger. So, what is the great danger? The great danger we face is that we may not get the human form in the next life and may instead go into the lower species of life like animals, birds, or any other region. We cannot be complacent that the human form will remain reserved for us, for the next birth will be determined by our karmas and level of consciousness in this life. But once we commence on the journey of spiritual practice, then even if we do not complete the path in this life, God sees that our intention to do so did exist. Therefore, He grants us human birth once again to enable us to continue from where we had left off. In this way, we avert the great danger. Whatever material assets we accumulate in the present life, they have to be left behind at the time of death. But if we make any spiritual advancement on the path of yoga, God preserves it and gives us the fruits in the next life, enabling us to start off from where we had left. Thus, having informed Arjuna about its benefits, Sri Krishna now begins instructing him about the science of working without attachment.